I don't know, maybe in another 10 years we can talk about it and I really understand what I was doing. I'm just living in it. I'm literally, kind of being as open as I possibly can to new ideas and how things are done versus how things were done. And I'm trying not to be a person who's so conditioned to my past that I'm not considerate of how things have to be done and are inevitably being done. Mystique is something that is good and bad. Because what I do struggle with now is the fact that I don't feel comfortable doing these kinds of interviews and talking because I don't really know the nature of where it's going to go. But I fuck with you. So I was like, I'm going to come sit down with you and we're going to have a real conversation. And I'm also, too, going to hopefully, be comfortable enough to be able to be vulnerable and talk about life. And, there's what you see and then there's who I am. And there's, some judgment that comes with that on the other side. But I don't really get concerned about that. I really am. I'm living my life and I'm trying to be a great artist, but greater than that, a good person and a human, right? I'm going to go through flaws, go through ups and downs, and my entire career has, kind of shown you that. Mm-hmm. Whether I was talking about it in music or just living through things. I've had some really, really tough times and I've not had anybody to talk to about it. I've not had the opportunity to be able to kind of open up. That's why I really was so excited about this Audibles, because it gave me the opportunity to be able to kind of peel the veil back and allow you to look at where I was mentally.
Imagine being just 13 years old and suddenly finding yourself living in the mansion of one of the most powerful men in the music industry. The flashy cars, the wild parties, the celebrities walking through the door every night. For most kids, it would sound like a dream. But for Usher, it turned out to be something much darker. And today, those old comments he made about his time with Sean Diddy Combs are resurfacing in a way that could shake the music world to its core. Because with the lawsuits piling up against Diddy, Usher's words no longer sound like playful jokes. They sound like confessions. So what did Usher actually reveal? And why is the internet buzzing that this could be the final nail in Diddy's career? Let's break this down.
Fault that Justin Bieber got by Diddy.
It's not our fault that Usher didn't want to get fucked by Diddy anymore. It is not our fault that Usher didn't want to get fucked by Diddy no more.
Papa don't hit me no more. Kick in the door, waving the 4-4. All you heard was Papa don't hit me no more. Let's go. Kick in the door, waving the 4-4. Hey, hey, hey.
Back in the early 1990s, Usher was just a teenager chasing his dreams. After showing promise as a singer, his mother made a bold move. She allowed him to live with Diddy in New York City so he could train, learn, and supposedly get the full industry experience. Now pause for a moment and
Usher
think about that.
got on Shay Shay, and I don't mean to mention other people's platforms, but he got on Shay Shay and he mentioned how great and how good Puff taught him and everything. You know what I'm saying? About the business, right? I know, and people know, that was around that in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital.
If you don't mind me asking, because I know the topic is sensitive, what happened to Usher?
I heard about some music executive from the industry back in Harlem. I heard it from some music executives back in Harlem. And I'm not gonna speak on their name. They doing programs and everything like that, and they may be doing something, they may speak on it themselves. But I heard it from some music executives.
Where did you hear?
Bro, you know how people be talking and we was around some people, something like that, and then some people might say, yo, I don't F with that dude. And at the time, I didn't even know who the F Usher was. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those type of situations. And when people say, yo, man, I don't F with them niggas. I'm getting out that industry and everything like that. You know, Puff sent this little kid to the hospital. How he sent him to the hospital? Man, niggas bleeding from the butt. And that's what was said. But I didn't even have a name for the kid at the time. Then you heard, and that's what happened.
A 13-year-old boy living inside the home of a man known for his wild lifestyle. This wasn't just a mentorship. This was a crash course in celebrity excess. In interviews over the years, Usher has admitted, sometimes with a nervous laugh, that he saw things in that house no kid should ever be exposed to. We're talking about endless parties, alcohol flowing, women everywhere, and situations that were way beyond his years. At the time, the public brushed it off. They thought he was exaggerating, or maybe just trying to sound edgy. But now, with lawsuits describing Diddy's parties as chaotic, dangerous, and even abusive, suddenly, Usher's old comments feel like a warning that nobody wanted to hear. And here's where it gets interesting. Usher once said in an interview, "I was living with Puff, and there were some things I definitely wasn't supposed to see."
Reed reportedly considered dropping Usher from his label, but when Usher begged him to stay on, Reed sent him to live with Sean Combs in New York for a year to train. And at the time, Combs, who was then known as Puff Daddy, we believe was in his 20s, there were these apparent training sessions. And these training sessions were known as Puffy Flavor Camp. Now, through the years, Usher has spoken about this time in his life with Combs. For example, in 2004, Usher told Rolling Stone that Combs introduced him to essentially sex. He said, quote, "Sex is so hot in the industry, man. There was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was going to happen." On the Howard Stern Show in 2016, Usher talked about his time with Combs too, saying there was definitely a lot of wild partying, but he doesn't think he was really able to understand what all was going on. And when Howard Stern asked him, would you send your own kids to something like Puffy Flavor Camp, this is what he had to say.
What like a life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
Now, to really understand the weight of this, you need to know what Diddy's world looked like during that time. His house wasn't just a home. It was a nonstop party. It was a revolving door of celebrities, models, and industry figures. People came in at all hours of the night. The music was blasting, the lights never went out, and the energy was, well, let's just say it wasn't the kind of environment for a 13-year-old kid trying to find himself. Imagine young Usher walking through a hallway lined with platinum records, only to open a door and see something he'd never be able to forget. And it wasn't just Usher. Years later, Justin Bieber also spent time with Diddy when he was barely a teenager. Videos surfaced of Bieber hanging out with him, and fans have since looked back and questioned just how appropriate that was. So the question becomes, why does this pattern keep repeating? Why are these young stars being brought into this world so early?
Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute, and his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that. He had already been to the hospital. That situation that Gene was talking about. And you still took Bieber there. But you got custody of him first. Diddy had already tried. They wouldn't let him. Actually, someone made reference to the fact that Diddy trying to get at Bieber the way he was trying to get at Bieber was looking a little predatory. And then Usher came in and discovered it and managed him and got custody of him and promised to look after him. And then he sent him to the diddler. Does that sound like a good guy?
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Does that sound like a good guy? Now that we know what Diddy's really like. They're not seeing what the intentions was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there.
Oh.
Let's be honest. He took Justin Bieber there.
Now here's the part one want you to really think about. Usher isn't just another artist. He's one of the biggest R&B stars of our time. His voice, his influence, his credibility, it all carries weight. So when his words about Diddy resurface, they're not just gossip. They're evidence. Evidence that lines up with the allegations being thrown at Diddy right now. And as more lawsuits surface, as more clips go viral, as more celebrities distance themselves from Diddy, the puzzle pieces are starting to come together. Which makes me wonder, how much longer can Diddy survive this storm? How many more secrets are waiting to be exposed? And when Usher finally decides to tell his story without holding back, Will it be the final blow that ends Diddy's career once and for all?
Now, one person didn't know what the saddest thing in the world is what they did to Justin Bieber.
What was that?
That's sad.
What'd they do to him? Because there's a lot of speculation out there, but nobody. I mean, I've heard things, but what did they really do to him?
They had sex with him
when he was a kid.
I hate to say that. I hate to say that because I really like Justin Bieber. I feel bad for Justin Bieber, and this wouldn't have happened if Justin Bieber came from a wealthy family. Justin Bieber pretty much came from a poor family, but the young man was so talented, and he could have been bigger than Michael Jackson. But the depression of the drugs and the stuff they allowed these grown men to do to this little boy is unhealthy and it's fucked up. No grown men supposed to be getting high and doing drugs and drinking with a kid.
Hey, Suge, Justin Bieber has been getting this out in different ways. You know, you could see it in his music and just what he's been trying to say without saying it. So, I mean, I think everybody knows what you just stated to be true.
I mean, you had grown men would take Justin Bieber. A grown man take Justin Bieber when he was young to a vacation, a romantic vacation, showing pictures on the Instagram with no women, nobody else but a grown, successful man and this little kid. Usher spent the night and Prima Puppy be in the same bed to do an album, and they never did one song they put out at that time. On top of that, when I met Usher, I came on one time, I'm speaking to the guy because he got good songs. That's out of respect. Like young black man. This dude rolled his eyes at me. And so there was somebody came over and kind of said, Suge, don't have one of your guys do nothing to him. He a good young man, but him and Puffy got a thing. He had a thing. He said, he gave me a look like, And I thought about it. The way he rolled his eyes at me, it wasn't like somebody homie rolled it. It was like I beat up somebody, man. Like I beat his, he the bitch. Like somebody to roll their eyes, like you beat my boyfriend up. I ain't speaking to you.
Really?
It's one of those, right? Yeah, for sure. And the crazy thing about it is like Leslie, his mother, and everybody else said the same thing. Well, it was wrong, but if we go and get Puffy in trouble behind that, Usher wouldn't be Usher. He'd be known as the guy who got molested by Puffy, and they didn't want that. They wanted the money.
One thing is clear. The internet hasn't stopped talking about this. Old clips are resurfacing. Fans are dissecting every interview, every joke, every awkward smile. And the more people look back, the more they realize that Usher may have been warning us years ago. We just weren't ready to listen. So here's my question to you. Do you think Usher has been holding back the full truth about Diddy? Or do you believe he's already said enough, and the rest is for us to figure out? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is far from over. And if you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter in this unfolding saga. Because trust me, this story is just getting started.